We are here to conduct a training on climate smart agriculture. And Steve, I turn it over to you.
My name is Steve Maxime, and I'm here for 3 reasons. Everybody with me? Can you hear me? Yeah. We're here for 3 reasons. We're here to have fun. Most important, we're here to have fun. We're here to learn a little bit about this climate smart agriculture thing. And third, and often most important, we're here because we have lunch. We're going to get lunch. No, great. So we're starting fresh. So this climate smart agriculture thing is about how do you produce plants and animals given all this talk about climate change. You've heard about climate change, right? So yeah, right. So before we could talk about climate smart agriculture, I need to spend a couple of minutes with you just explaining some things, right? For the teachers, for Kenley, and for all the other people. This climate change thing has to do with something called global warming. So I'm going to take it nice and slow. Stop me. This is not school, eh? Remember, we get a chance to come outside. We having fun. We're going to get lunch. Right. We are going to get lunch. This is the first bunch of kids that are not excited about that. I'm the only person excited about lunch. Right? I only here because of the luncheon, right? If they didn't have lunch, I don't come in. All right. So all this talk about climate change has to do with this thing called global warming, which I'm going to try and explain to you in a little bit. So, there you go. All right, everybody write down the name for lunch and thing. Ready? Good. So, imagine inside that car, one of those cars across there. Imagine it's hot sun, right? And you open a car door in the hot sun, especially if the car doesn't have tint. Is it hotter inside the car or outside? It's hotter inside, right? Everybody realize that, right? I mean, that's stress. If you don't have a heavy tint like some people, right? If you don't have a heavy tint, when you go into that car, it's going to be hotter than outside. Everybody agree with me? Yes. The busman, everybody agree with me, right? Here why? The sun heat and that sunlight is coming through the glass. Everybody still with me, right? It's coming through the glass, warming up the inside of the car. Yeah? But the heat is also being reflected back out. But it doesn't come out of the car as easily as it goes in. So what happens is that inside the car becomes a lot hotter. Let me run that by you again. You have the car, just like that down there. Sunlight coming, warming up inside the car. The heat is coming back out. You sure you're with me? You making sense? Yeah. Why I think my boy having issues and because that's like between the eyes, vision improving. Excellent. So as the sun's rays goes through the glass, it's heating up inside the car, right? But that heat isn't coming back out as fast as it went in. So what the glass is doing, the glass is sort of trapping the heat inside the car. Everybody still with me? Yes. Nice, good. See, people still not in there, but yes. So that effect, that operation, that thing is similar to what happens when people have a greenhouse. Now, those of you with relatives in England and in the States and so, you'll realize that they sometimes have a glass house next to their apartment or their house where they're renting or whatever, right? You know why? Because they want to use that glass house to plant the little hibiscus, the little croton, things that they're accustomed to in Grenada, right? When they go and live in the cool. Because when they go and live in the cool, when they go and live in places in the winter, they don't get as much heat to grow those kinds of plants, right? Still with me? Still making sense? Okay. So that house they make out of glass is referred to as a greenhouse. It's called a greenhouse because you can grow green plants and so inside of it. So what that greenhouse does is it traps the heat. Listen to me. It traps the heat so that it can grow plants that would normally grow in our condition. Tropical plants. Still with me, right? Nice. So what has been happening to us globally, in other words, the entire globe, the globe is supposed to be like a globe, is that you have that same effect that same greenhouse effect, in other words, there are gases in the air that acting just like the glass in the car. So that there are gases out there, right, that you can't see, that are trapping the heat around the globe. And because this heat is being trapped around the globe or around the whole world, that's what they're referring to as global warming. Let me repeat it again. Going slowly. I lose anybody when I talk about the car being hotter? Everybody understands that, right? Yes. With the glass up, the car is hotter. So the glass is what is really keeping the heat inside the car, right? I'm saying that there are gases out there that acting just like the glass, right? And it's keeping heat on this planet, this globe that we're living on, right? Earth. Still with me? Teachers? You still with me? Right, okay. So, this global warming thing, this effect, the fact that you have these gases acting like a greenhouse gas is what is responsible for global warming. So, these gases, there are all kinds of gases that have this effect, right? That have this greenhouse effect. But the greenhouse gases that we're most concerned about is something called carbon dioxide. You all have heard about carbon dioxide. You know that plants give off carbon dioxide, taking oxygen, etc. Right. What has happened to us meaning all people all over the world, is that we have been burning, listen to me carefully, we have been burning fuel, gas, diesel, your rubis and your salt, cooking gas and so. And by burning all these gases, we are producing more carbon dioxide. Everybody still with me? Anybody doesn't see that? Right. Doesn't understand that? Already worried about standing so closely. Yeah. So it's not very complicated. A couple things you have to get straight. That there are these gases called greenhouse gases, and the gases acting just like the glass that keeping the heat on the globe, on the world, right? And that is what is responsible for global warming. Let me run it one more time. As I said, this is crucial. If you don't understand, stop me, please. There's this global warming thing that is causing the earth to be warmer. That's the main point you have to get out of all that. So all I will talk just now was to explain why there's something called global warming. And the only reason I spend that time talking about that is because that is how you get to explain climate change. Because climate change is about global warming. So if you understand that fact that there are these gases out there that are causing the earth to be warmer, then you'll understand why we need to do climate smart agriculture. Because this climate change thing is affecting everything we do. Let me run that by you quickly in 6 steps. If we agree that the place is now a lot hotter, the entire globe, right? That's why we call it global warming. This global warming thing is what is responsible for this increased heat, right? If the earth is warming up, then it kind of makes sense that if you imagine water in the earth or on the ocean heating up, what happens when you heat water in a pot?
It boils to gas.
Take a note of this. This youngster here, you're in line for something big. I explain to you what it is afterwards. As you heat up all that water, it turns into steam, right? Right? And that steam goes up and forms
Clouds.
Hey. But we wasting time here now. You all could be conducting this. I thought I explained something, but you know what I'm talking about already. Of course, it forms all these clouds, right? And then when it gets to a particular temperature or a particular height, the water condenses. Jeez, I mean, everybody on the ball here, you know. I mean, we're only talking about it, you know, we're experiencing it, right? Because the same rain we're talking about is falling on me right now. So that with the increased temperature on the earth, you have a lot more of this, what's that called? Evaporation. This is a secondary school or primary school? This is a primary school? Well, you're doing easy. No, man, seriously.
Want to cycle and lunch?
Extra. Miss and I on the same wavelength. Miss and I thinking about lunch already. That's what motivated me. Yeah, so here what's happened. With this global warming thing, you have a lot more evaporation, right? A lot more cloud formation, a lot more condensation, and a lot more rain. So that's the first part of the story. So if we are going to survive in a time with a lot more rain in some places, right, then it means the agriculture is going to have to change. We're going to talk about that a little later. So that's the first step. The first step is that you could have more rain, and because you have more heat and more rain, as with most things, if you have more rain in one place, it might mean that you have less rain somewhere else, and then you're talking about drought. You know, drought is when you don't have enough. You don't have enough water. You gotta come and stop next to me. Anyhow, so that's the first step in the story. So why we are talking about climate smart agriculture is because we know that there are going to be problems with water. Either we're going to have too much sometimes, or we're going to have too little sometimes, like in a drought. So that's the first step in the 6. All right. So we explain the extra rain. But just imagine that if the whole globe is warming up, that means the earth and the sea warming up as well. You know? Say that seawater is getting hotter. What do you think is going to happen to all the ice? Oh, by the way, when you talk about the globe, this planet of ours, there are 2 poles on the globe, and they're covered with ice. Right? Is what they call it. If you think I'm going to share my salary with you, you're very mistaken. If you feel you're going to come here and show me up, right? Oh, by the way, I had planned it that way. I planned it so that he will know everything already, right? So don't feel that, but you're doing easy. You're doing easy, right? Yeah, so seriously, what is happening is that you have these polar ice caps. That's what they refer to, right? At both poles, you have all of this ice. Imagine. My man come prepared with everything, you know. He come prepared with cool water too, you know, right? I'm going to use this as an example. Imagine this container full of water, right? That's like the oceans. Imagine 2 big blocks of ice on top of this container. Everybody still with me?
Yes, sir.
What happens if the temperature increases?
The ice will melt.
I really wasted my time here.
And the sea level get to increases because every planet.
I think I'm going to ban you. I mean, I am so impressed. Look that. In 2 minutes, what I take all them years in university to play a learning, in 2 minutes, you get a better explanation that I could ever give you. That I could ever give you. That is what is responsible for sea level rise. Listen to me again. The heat, increased heat, polar ice caps melting. It comes as if the oceans overflowing literally. So that's the second one already, right? So we explain the rain and the drought. We explain the sea level rise. Now, that should have been enough to keep us worried. We'd have more going on than that. Apart from the sea level rise, the rain, the drought, the oceans warming up. At the oceans warming up, you're also getting a change in current. You know that you have ocean currents, right? And a change in breezes, right? The winds are changing. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of Sahara dust. You know that we get Sahara.
Yes, sir. From the volcano.
I think you're just trying to destroy my ego, you know. Man. I came here, you know, I figured, I come from Montreal and I'm so bright and thing, but apparently I ain't as bright as I thought, right? Yeah, of course. So all this Sahara dust and so, the wind patterns are changing. And we found out how serious that is when La Soufrière erupted. Remember when La Soufrière erupted last year? Yes. And everybody with black cars. Everybody was bright enough to have a black car, right? Every morning you get up, you still see ash on top of your car, right? Yes. Some of us who are plenty brighter bought a brown car, right? So that whether you have dust or you don't have dust, it didn't really matter to me, you know. I ain't washing no car every day, right? But the people with black cars found out. So that the wind patterns are changing. And with those wind patterns changing, guess what is happening? All kind of these new diseases and pests. But Miss and all,
Come in.
Miss and all, and everybody here to show me up, you know, right? Miss and all nodding and say, well, we don't know that already. You had to come from quite Montreal to tell me that, you know what I mean? But no, but seriously, the wind patterns are changing. So you have a whole set of new pests and diseases and things can be circulated now because of climate change. So you see why we had to make the agriculture a little different? Because we had to face the water problem, the sea level rise. Oh, by the way, the sea level rise, you know what that means? For people who are living
Close to the beach.
salt water intrusion. In other words, you know that if you dig anywhere on the earth, right? Anywhere, you're supposed to exactly. But if you're if you're on a flat place, right, on a flat island like Antigua, Barbados, when they try to dig for water, right, dig a well, they get no water, but it's mixed with salt water. It mixed with salt water because of the salt water intrusion. That's another big one. You didn't hear about that one before?
Yeah.
All right. I feel a little good now. You know. At least it was worth the drive then. So at least if you only learn one thing today, there's a big term called saltwater intrusion. And it's only Mr. Maxime knew that one. Take that, right? Or you can take that. Yeah. So this seawater intrusion is going to affect the water that you need for agriculture if you're living on a flat place. Right? So that's another one. And to drink too, yeah, but we're talking about to feed your plants. You know you couldn't take seawater and just straight on your plants, right? You kill it. Exactly, right? So we know we need fresh water to do that. So wait now, by the way, if seawater does kill plants, how all them coconut trees growing by the beach? All them coconut trees on the beach. And them sea almond and thing.
Because they can't see someone, they could be very big.
Yeah, right. Yeah, agreed. Because they adapted to it. In other words, they are accustomed. It's like how some people could get up in the morning and bathe with rainwater in a drum, right?
They are accustomed with seawater.
They adapted to it. In the same way that, you know, if I try a stunt like that, right? As much as I like to go about the place being so strong and all that, right? If I try to bathe with water from a drum 4 o'clock in the morning, hospital see me, right? I go there. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I have my grandparents and things, they come and they bathe in cool water that early morning and they hear me and them coughing, right? So that tells you that they adapted. Same way the plants adapted to those conditions too. So we deal with saltwater intrusion, we deal with rain and drought, we deal with the ocean warming up, and with the ocean warming up too, it's going to affect the coral, and if you affect the corals, you affect the fish, because the fish need the coral to spawn and so, and that, your whole fisheries, everything in Guava and Victoria are going to close down, right, because you won't have as much fish in the sea again. So you see how this climate change thing is important, right? Everybody still with me? Yes. Yeah. Right. So that why we need a climate smart agriculture. We need an agriculture that could deal with climate change. That's basically what climate smart agriculture is. You know? How do you deal with climate change? By doing certain things differently. And we have some excellent examples here. We're going to see some examples here and at your farm too, right? Right? So we're going to see what farmers are doing, what smart things farmers are doing to be able to deal with climate change. And that's what climate smart agriculture is about. And that's what we're here to see. So we're here to have fun, see that, and cut. Yeah. But why I think I'm pointing out people? Because we are not in this fight by ourselves. You know? Of course, there's 4-H, but there are also some superheroes involved too. There's a character called Agriman. It's a superhero, agriculture superhero, a food production superhero. And Agriman is a cartoon character, is a superhero, is a comic book character, and I have in my possession 2 comic books to give to the school that was participating the most, right? They're right in the car there in Kenley's car, right? Every week I give out to each of the parishes, right? So I give it to the school, and the school can lend it to the students as they see fit. So Agriman is this superhero who is a food production superhero, and he has a female counterpart. Now, I'll give you $1 if you can tell me what's the name of the female counterpart. If Agriman is the male superhero,
Agreement.
Good try. But for once I catch you. The name of the female character, listen to this one, is photosynthesis. You know what photosynthesis is? You know what photosynthesis is?
Yes, sir.
Right. You know, it's all the teachers get first. All the teachers get first. Is photosynthesis, right? So that's the female character. So we out here today, apart from having fun and getting snacks, is to talk about climate smart agriculture. And the only reason we're talking about climate smart agriculture is because there's something called climate change, yeah? Which is going to affect us and is already affecting us. Still with me? No? Right. But we still didn't talk about everything yet. No, I talk about 6. The big one that we didn't talk about yet is the extreme events. No. You know when you watch sports on TV and say extreme BMX something is always the most ridiculous thing. So an extreme event is like a hurricane.
Tsunami.
Those kinds of things, right? But climate change is most associated with an extreme event that we know a lot about here in the Caribbean. And that is hurricanes, right? Hurricanes, right? Hurricanes, they're no easy, right? A hurricane is a serious thing, right? You all weren't alive then, but in 2004, when Ivan rocked through Grenada, it was, I mean, I could talk. I was here just about 3 weeks after, right? I was part of a mission. So I can tell you that, you see how you're accustomed seeing trees standing up and things? Big, hard trunk tree. They ain't just fall down. They fall down and they
Fly.
They go free. They just 1 minute the tree here. Next minute the tree happen. 1 minute, your roof.
They on top of your roof.
Your roof there on top of the house here. And next time you look for it. You did? You was here what? You can't be old enough. You wasn't here in 2004, man. Your parents tell you that, right? Somebody tell you that. No, but seriously, the extreme events are what we really have to worry about. So we know that there are going to be more hurricanes. We have seen it already, right? So of all the 6 things I tell you about, the sea level rise, the extra rain, the drought, etc., that one is the most extreme one. Because in the space of an hour or 2, you could lose everything, right? And that's why I call it extreme, right? Yeah. So how do you prepare agriculture that can deal with a hurricane? Is why we're out here today, having fun, waiting for your food, and talking about climate smart agriculture, right? So I hope I was able, in a few minutes, all these things you hear people talking about on TV and thinking about climate smart and climate change and global warming, with the help of my 3 friends here, right? We were able to explain that like nobody's business.